The content of this program represents the opinions, research, and observation of the host and his assessment of scientific evidence available at this time. None of the statements, claims, techniques, dietary guidelines, or supplements mentioned in this program have been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. The information contained herein is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for standard care provided by medical practitioners. Any application of the advice presented here is at the listener's own discretion or risk. The information should not be used for self-diagnosis or application. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional before beginning any new nutritional, exercise, or lifestyle improvement program. The host and this station disclaim any responsibility for any adverse effects arising from the use or application of information contained in this program. Now broadcasting from his nutritional command center deep in the heart of Victoria, Texas, charging through the swamp of misconceptions, deception, and myths, bringing to you the newest cutting-edge scientific-based nutrition information so you can enjoy whole spectrum health. Here's the paladin of nutrition and whole foods expert, Labron Allen.
Good morning. It's Saturday, and this is Health Alert. I'm your host, Labron Allen. I have so much health news this morning, I'm not sure I'll even be able to get through it. But before we start, let me just talk about our most recent free health presentation. That was this past Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. at the Natural Health Clinic. They're on John Stockbauer at 3908 North John Stockbauer. And the title of this free health presentation was Overcome Your Weight. So how many of you out there have difficulty in reaching your weight loss goals or maintaining your weight? Either way, the audience, which we had quite a good turnout, the audience learned 5 deal breakers, which means that if you do not know what these 5 things are and you do not have them in place, you will not be successful in losing weight and or maintaining the weight that you have lost. So there were 5 components to this. Now, I will tell you that the most common things that you hear that are necessary in order to lose weight, that 50% of those things were not part of the 5 deal breakers. So what do I mean? Well, typically you hear that you need diet and exercise in order to reach your weight loss goals. Usually diet is low fat and portion control. Exercise was really not one of the components. Now, it was part of a few of the components, actually, but not with the typical idea in mind as far as exercising to burn the additional energy. Therefore, you are consuming, in effect, more energy than you are taking into the body. That is not the purpose of exercise. If you are trying to exercise with that idea in mind, I am here to tell you that that idea will be unsuccessful. And you have probably already noted that if you have, for any length of time, been trying to reach your weight loss goals through exercise and dieting. Now, one of the components was diet. However, it had nothing to do with portion control. Portion control is not even something to consider if you are eating the appropriate foods. Your body, your brain, will naturally control the amount of food that you consume when you are eating the proper foods. So if you were not there at that free health presentation, you missed some incredibly valuable information. However, there is a way, actually a few ways, in which you can access that information. Are you a subscriber to our YouTube channel? If not, then again, you are going to miss that free health presentation that will help you attain your weight loss goal. It will help you overcome your weight issues. If, and ladies and gentlemen, this is a huge if you follow the recommendations. The information is there for success, hope, and satisfaction in reaching your weight loss goals. The information is there. The unknown factor is, will you follow it as recommended? If you're interested in obtaining this information, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is free. You simply go to www.youtube.com. In the search box on the homepage, enter Nutri, N-U-T-R-I, Doc, D-O-C 35. That will bring up our Natural Health Clinic YouTube channel. Simply subscribe to that, and you will be notified through email as soon as we upload any new video. And I will be uploading that video presently. Also, you can obtain a copy, your very own copy, free of charge, on DVD of Overcome Your Weight Free Health Presentation simply by calling our clinic. Speak to Tanya. That office number is 361-575-4683. Now, before I get into this piece of health news, let me give you some history. It's actually history of which you are familiar. However, probably not from this perspective. So, most individuals are of the thinking, and they have been taught, that the reason you become ill is from a germ that you somehow contract. That germ theory is very, very old. However, there has been substantial research that has come out recently and has totally destroyed the germ theory. Now, why is that? Well, what this research is concerning, the results from this is actually a government study. It was called the Human Microbiome Project. The Human Microbiome Project. What they have discovered is that there are at least 10,000 species of microbes within every one of our bodies, and that includes bacteria and fungus and other microbes that add up. There are so many that it adds up to often 5 to 6 pounds within our body of these microbes. And they are finding that these microbes are absolutely essential to proper health, that they are protection against other forms of bacteria that remain latent within our bodies, such as Streptococcus bacteriums. In fact, there are studies that many people carry around these very aggressive forms of strep bacterium within their nose, their nostrils, etc., and it does not affect them. However, if other people are in contact with them occasionally, it can become a problem. So the question is, why does that particular Streptococcus bacterium not affect the host? The reason is because these 10,000 other microbes keep that detrimental bacteria in check. However, also, it indicates that those germs, those bugs, those bacteria and detrimental fungi are already in your body. In fact, here's what it says. From the study, it turns out that nearly everyone harbors low levels of some harmful types of bacteria. Oh, imagine that. Everyone harbors some levels of harmful bacteria. So let me tell you, folks, what I find in practice with my patients is that they are carrying certain levels of different forms of microbes that are detrimental to their health, and their body needs help. And so in a health improvement program and during the nutrition response test, one of the things that I always test with every exam on these individuals is if there is some form of microbe that their body needs help with, simply by adjusting the terrain or the environment of their body. That is the most powerful help to the immune system. Now, the reason that these detrimental forms of microbes may start becoming a problem and you get full-blown set of symptoms is because you have done something to disrupt your internal terrain and or environment. Such as what? Well, such as a toiletry product that you've put on your skin. It's destroyed the bacteria on your skin, and now there is latent streptococcus that's on that skin. You get it into your nostrils, your mouth, your eyes, whatever the case may be, and boom, now you have a problem. That's just one example. Or you have eaten wheat product, sugar products that has destroyed beneficial microbes, and boom, that allows the detrimental microbes to flourish. And there you go. You have infectious symptoms. Now, do you begin understanding how important it is and what key aspect these microbes have to do with your immune health, with the entire health of your body? It is significant. And again, on a health improvement program, this is something that we pay dramatic attention to. Now, these microbes, by the way, these are not only in the gut. You know, everyone thinks about, as far as beneficial microbes, the bacteria, helpful flora in the gut. That's only one area. They're finding that every body system organ has different sets of microbes that help that area, and it is different for every person. It is like the body is adapting to what this person is doing, to their life, to their choices within that life and their external environment. Their internal environment is adapting to their external environment. That is amazing. The study goes on to say that healthy persons, in fact, in the study, there are 242 volunteers, that the detrimental bugs simply quietly coexist with benign or the helpful microbes, perhaps keeping those helpful microbes in check. Do you get it? So those infectious things that can be lethal may actually be there for a reason as well, but simply due to our choices of, you know, what we're putting on our skin, what we're eating, what we're breathing, what we're thinking, how we're adapting to stress, all those things, medications we're taking, we choose to take, all those things are having an effect on this microbiome. So the question is, why do some of these bad microbes harm some people and not others? Well, I think we've already answered that question, because of the beneficial microbes keeping them in check and vice versa. See, that's the way it works. And then, of course, they say the big question is, what changes this microbiome zoo within people? Well, duh. It's going to be chemical toxicity, foods that you're consuming, metal toxicity, emotional stressors, and scars on the surface of the skin that impede autonomic nervous system function. Now, they think that for every cell that is in your body, there are 10 bacterial cells. Can you imagine? There's 100 trillion cells that make up the human body. That is amazing. But the thing is that these bacterial cells are so small that they only make up about 1 to 3% of your body mass. So again, that's about 4 to 6 pounds depending on your weight. Now, here is a fascinating thing. We know from the Human Genome Project that there's about 22,000 human genes. However, now they are realizing that the human body is really made up of all these tens of thousands of microbes, and they also have genes. So therefore, along with the microbes, they are now estimating that there are 8 million genes within the human body. That is just absolutely incredible. This is what makes health or not. And that is what a health improvement program does for you. Through nutrition response testing, it can be identified exactly the nutrients that your body needs in order to adjust this environment. It can be identified what is offsetting this environment in the first place. Is it a food allergy? Is it a chemical? Is it an infection? Is it one of these detrimental microbes that has been allowed to flourish for whatever reason? If so, then the body can identify what it needs to get rid of that. Now, is there any form of medicine, any form of medical testing that can do that? That is the power of a health improvement program. Now, the easiest way to learn even more about a health improvement program is by going to one of our free health seminars. We have them twice a month, every month. There is no obligation. And you learn so much about things that can help you not just now, but throughout your entire life to have as much energy, vitality, well-being, cognitive function, and energy as is possible. But apparently it can't help you have a clear throat. It's one thing that happens when I speak so long without any interruption or intervals, is that my throat starts getting scratchy, so I apologize for that. But anyway, that is just some of the power of what a health improvement program can do for you. Now, one of the things about this human microbiome study was all of the different aspects of how these bacteria and microbes help the human body. Some of the gut bacteria, of course, it helps with digestion of certain proteins and fats. However, not only that, those same bacteria will produce beneficial compounds that are anti-inflammatory. So, when you take an antibiotic and it destroys gut bacteria, and probably other forms of bacteria as well, you're not just creating constipation or allowing a fungal infection to take hold. You are destroying multiple aspects of human health, ones that are totally unknown and will not be known for years, if ever. So just think about that the next time you want to run out for a little cough or sinus congestion and get an antibiotic. So that was one of the surprises through the study, is that there isn't just one core set of bacteria that perform all of these different functions. A variety of these bacteria can do the same job, so there are adaptive mechanisms. So just completely fascinating information. Now, here's something interesting going on. Continuing with this research, now, Baylor College of Medicine reported just this past Wednesday that the kind of bacteria, for example, living in the vagina, that this bacteria, remember we talked about adaptive mechanism, this bacteria in the vagina changes during pregnancy. So there's one form of a bacteria in the vagina before pregnancy, then woman becomes pregnant, bacteria changes. Why? Well, the thinking is that this bacteria that changes during pregnancy is to give the baby, the fetus, as healthy a passage into the world as possible. Think about that. As the baby passes through the vaginal canal, it is going to be coated with these microbes. Now, what does that mean? Well, let me ask you, what does it mean for your baby if instead of a vaginal birth, you get a C-section? Then that means from the get-go, your child is going to be compromised in its health. You cannot get around it. Now, I will tell you that, of course, there are reasons sometimes for a C-section. However, did you realize that, for example, here in Victoria, well over 60% of all births are through C-section? That is not necessary. Now, they will frighten you. They will say the fetus is going into distress and blah, 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 and this and that. And they will, through fear, coerce you into a C-section because it's more convenient and it makes more money. So that's something to consider, and I hope that you do. Now, this study concludes with the words that all this new information is humbling because it shows how much more work is needed to understand the world within us. And it's just amazing. They're just amazed about all this. You know what? Natural health clinicians have been working with this for decades. Decades. 80 years. Almost 90 that I'm aware of. With this very thing and this very understanding. This is so new and humbling. I mean, this is ridiculous. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the idea of natural health care is to create something called homeostasis. What does homeostasis mean? It means internal balance. Internal balance. Now, isn't that what this is talking about? The perfect balance between beneficial microbes and detrimental microbes? These work as antagonists to do jobs and keep each other in check. That is homeostasis, internal balance. And that's only been talked about for 90 years. Now, on this show, we often talk about toxicity of metals, mercury being a leading one. Of course, there's lead and aluminum and arsenic in the tap water, municipal water. In fact, I think once a year, the city of Victoria sends out what is in the municipal water. You'll find that arsenic is one of them that is listed. Of course, it's below detrimental levels. A little arsenic's always good for you. So what are some of the symptoms, for example, of the mercury toxicity in particular? That's one thing that I wanted to go over just briefly. Well, let me go over that. There can be insomnia, numbness and tingling of the extremities, nervousness, hallucinations, dizziness, headaches, anxiety, fatigue, loss of self-confidence, muscle weakness, irritability, hearing difficulties, drowsiness, emotional stress, depression, skin inflammations, weight loss, lack of coordination, tremors, and kidney damage. So that's all. Now, how would you know if you, for example, have loss of confidence, or fatigue, or anxiety, or headaches, that it's mercury toxicity? Well, if you're on a health improvement program, you can find out. That is what a nutrition response testing exam is designed to do. It's one of the 7 categories and interferences or barriers to healing that we test for with every examination, with every patient. And very rapidly, we can both assess if there is something like that affecting the body and what the body needs in order to deal with it. The body is always the one that heals. There is nothing that I ever give you that heals anything. It just simply aids the body to do its job. Now, the thing is that with any of these toxins, regardless if it is a metal or a chemical, you don't get just mercury by itself. You are going to get it from other forms of toxicity as well. In plain words, there's going to be other chemicals or other metals that are with that mercury or that aluminum or that lead or that arsenic or whatever it is. Now, the problem is that then the toxicity doesn't just become 1 + 1. Okay, now we have 2 forms of toxicity, and that just creates those 2 problems. No, what happens is, and this is well known, that when you have mercury in another chemical, it doesn't just do the 1 + 1, but it can be 50, 100 times, or even much more damaging and detrimental to the body than just the one. So it is exponential in damage. So let me give you an idea, perhaps, of what a typical daily exposure for you might be. And this is common. Just listen. So here's a typical daily exposure. Could be that you get some mercury in your fillings in your teeth. Or perhaps you've had some fish that's contaminated with mercury, and now we have to be extremely concerned with radioactive contamination as well. Or perhaps you've just had a vaccine, or with this now, so let's say you've had some fish, okay, and you walked outside and someone out in the front of the restaurant outdoors was smoking. So now you've just breathed in some cadmium from the secondhand cigarette smoke. Then you had some produce and with that meal as well. So then you got some PCBs and dioxins. Those are found in those things. If you had steak earlier that day or some kind of ham for breakfast perhaps, then you probably got DDT or malathion, which are pesticides. And then if you drank your city tap water without filtering it, then you may have gotten some arsenic, or if you ate some eggs or chicken, or maybe got some overspray from the neighbor's herbicides, then you had arsenic as well. Then over the weekend, you would treat your lawn with some weed killer, and then after that, you had a headache, so you took some Tylenol. Of course, your doctor, he's really concerned about your cholesterol levels because it's over 200, and that needs to be under 200, otherwise you're going to have a heart attack, although all the research has now proven that has nothing to do with it. But nonetheless, you have been convinced to be taking Lipitor every day, so we got that chemical in there as well. Plus, let's say that you work for one of the plants around, you have to wear flame retardant or fire-resistant clothing, so then you get those chemicals into your skin, especially antimony, which is a heavy metal. Plus, you've filled up the car, okay, or your diesel truck. So now you have petroleum products lodged within your respiratory system. Then you went out to eat, but unbeknownst to you, the restaurant is using aluminum cookware. So now you have aluminum lodged in your body. And so it just goes on and on and on. That is a common daily exposure. At minimum, over the course of a week, that is what you get exposed to continuously. What are you doing to get rid of it? Do you think your body just happily takes the mercury in and the DDT in and the flame retardants in, the petroleum distillates in, and says, oh, okay, we'll just get rid of this and boom, it's gone? No, because those very things block your body's ability, your hepatic system's ability to release those chemicals. So if you are not doing something actively with knowledge to get rid of this toxicity, it is building up in your body over days, weeks, months, years, decades, and it is the primary leading cause of why there is soaring rates of autism, ADHD, cancer, obesity, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, diabetes, autoimmune diseases, heart attacks, and of course, let's not forget strokes. And if you listen to the media, and you know about the media because we talked about that's one of the ways of programming us to think certain things in certain ways within the culture, then you're just lulled to sleep that, oh, they're coming up with a new cure. Let's do a walk for breast cancer. It's going to come one day. We're going to find that cure for muscular dystrophy. We're going to find that cure for diabetes. We're going to find that cure for this. We're going to find that cure for that. And the days and weeks and months and years and decades and decades and decades and decades just keep going on. No cure. It's amazing, just to stop and think for a second, how much money would be lost if they did find a cure. Suddenly, all that fundraising would stop, wouldn't it? Makes one think, if indeed a cure will ever be found. And of course, a cure means that the causes are not known. Well, hello, I've just gone over causes. If you take a look at all these different things that I mentioned that is in common daily exposure for the average human, you will actually find that every one of these things are known multiples of causes of these different diseases. But of course, that's not considered. I'm sure that's not part of the cure. Why consider that? Because then we might find a cure. All right, moving on. I'm going to conclude with this study. Seems as though I get off on a tangent, and I apologize for that, but you know what? I'm just tired of people not getting that their health is being coerced from them. I have a patient who works for a hospital. She is part of a marketing program for that hospital, and they were going around and vaccinating their staff for certain things. And she told them, well, I'm under the care of a clinical nutritionist, and my understanding of vaccinations is that it can be quite detrimental, that there are quite a few unproven things about the makeup of these vaccines as far as the preservatives and so forth that are put in them. And so I do not want to take this vaccination. And they said, oh, became very defensive, she said, and angry, said, oh, well, it's federal mandate, a federal law that you have to be vaccinated. The person left, came back with the form, said, hey, federal law. And so she complied with that and got this vaccination. Well, what she did not know is that in Texas there is no law. None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Nothing. No law at all that hospital staff has to be vaccinated for anything. There is a Texas state law that there has to be a hepatitis B vaccine available for hospital employees. So in plain words, the hospital employer has to have these hepatitis B vaccines available if the employees choose to have that particular vaccine. Otherwise, there is no law, no requirement, nothing. And that, folks, is from the cdc.gov website. All you have to do is go look it up. You can find out for your state what is required. And in Texas, nothing. And in fact, most states, if not all, have no law. So go look it up. So what that means is that they point blank lied to her. They preyed upon her ignorance of the law. To her face, lied. Now, that is ridiculous. You have to wonder why. You know, if the vaccinations are so wonderful, then the people who get vaccinated should be safe, right? It's the unvaccinated people that are going to be horrible. You know, if they say, oh, well, the unvaccinated people are the ones who spread it. Well, why? You're supposed to be vaccinated against it if they're so effective and wonderful and helpful. Guys, let's start thinking about this. People are coercing your health by lying to you. Learn, read, do, become active. Get out of the zombie state. Stop watching television. The flicker rate is designed to lull you into a certain brain wave that is similar to sleeping. So you can just download all that garbage information and think it's your own ideas. Okay. Anyway, in conclusion, this is a study. The title, this is actually, let me see, from the Department of Orthopedics, School of Medicine, Turkey. So this is a study from Turkey. It says the effect of electromagnetic field induced by radio frequency waves at 900 to 1800 megahertz on bone mineral density of iliac bone wings in humans. You say, what? What this study is on cell phone radiation. Okay, here in the States, we use 1800 megahertz frequency for cell phones. And that's exactly what this study was about. In fact, it says, in this study, we aim to investigate the effects of electromagnetic waves emitted from cellular phones operating at frequencies of 900 to 1800 megahertz on the bone mineral density of the human iliac bone, which are the most common carriage sites for mobile phones. The mean age of the 150 male volunteers was 31.85 years. The iliac site exposed to electromagnetic wave was group 1, and the unexposed side was group 2. What were the conclusions? The current data suggests that taking into consideration cell phone use when iliac bone graft is necessary in clinical practice would constitute an important factor for more favorable outcomes. In plain words, the electromagnetic fields produced by common cell phone and having it on the body affected bone density in humans. Do you wear your cell phone on your body, over your heart, on your hip? Well, what do you want to lose, your heart, your hip? I just read a study about a woman who had to have a cancerous tumor removed in her breast that was in the exact area that she wore her cellular phone in her bra. Hello? Are you wearing your cell phone on your body? Studies suggest that it's going to cause problems. You should think better about it. So those are some of the things that we look for so that we can have the most optimal health, vitality, well-being, longevity, energy, enthusiasm, purpose in life. That's what health brings you. Do you have those things? If you don't, it means you don't have health. Just because you're not coughing up blood doesn't mean that you have health. You have to have vitality, energy, purpose, desire for life. That is health. That is what a health improvement program can provide for you through nutrition response testing. If you're interested, come to one of our free health seminars and learn how it can help you. So this is Labrin Allen, your host for Health Alert, signing off. Good health to you.